As we know, there are so many changes happening with law enforcement in the last several months, in the last year, and in the last decade. There are problems with recruiting right now for our law enforcement agencies and getting good recruits to apply. Sheriff Scott Rose with Dodge County joining me to talk a little bit more about law enforcement in general and getting an update on where things are now that the Chauvin trial is behind us, maybe. But it looks like, Scott, every time I talk to either a sheriff or a chief of police, recruiting has been hard over the last year. How do you get the good recruits, and are you even getting any?
Yeah, we're struggling with recruiting right now, just as everybody is. You know, the challenge is with the anti-law enforcement sentiment that talks about qualified immunity, all the different legislation that's coming out of the state right now, a lot of the knee-jerk reactions to some of the truly tragic situations that have happened, but there's still knee-jerk reactions to these incidents from our legislators, and we just don't have the literally we have just a fraction of the applicants that we used to have, and it's frustrating. I don't know where we're going to go from here.
Talk to me about the hiring process.
We really focus a lot on integrity, a lot on, you know, what have you done for your community? What kind of volunteer work have you done for your community? You know, we're looking for deputies who want to take ownership into their position here. We're not interested in applicants who are just looking for a job. You know, we're looking for applicants who want to make this their home and really want to take ownership into the position here. And so we've always had that kind of an attitude here. It's just we're struggling now to get applicants because of everything that's gone on.
What kind of incentives do you have? I mean, every time we talk about jobs, it's hard for fast food places right now to get workers. You know, in all sectors, we have an employee shortage. And for you, what kind of incentives can you give them? I mean, your hands are tied when it comes to budgeting.
Yeah, the problem is we can't. We don't have any kind of an incentive plan or incentive package. And it's even tougher for greater Minnesota agencies, you know, smaller counties like ours, where it's tougher for us to deal with some of the metro rates. You know, so we have to compete based on the working environment that we have here, the type of equipment that we have here, the type of training that we provide. Because in a lot of ways for us, we can't compete with the wages.
Is there a silver lining at all in the unrest that we've seen since the death of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement? Could that be used at all as a recruiting tool in the fact that, you know what, you don't like the officers that are out there, come join our law enforcement agency?
One of the problems with the recruiting right now is our state legislators, a lot of our state leaders have made it pretty clear that they're not very law enforcement supportive. And you know, so we're hearing from parents of kids who have gone to schools, other schools around the state or out of state, parents that are from here in Dodge County, and that are saying their kids are interested in law enforcement, but not Minnesota.
Are you losing good deputies at all? I do know that is happening in larger agencies. Have you lost any because they're saying, you know what, I just can't keep doing it?
We're fortunate here. We don't have a big turnover here with full-time staff, so we haven't lost any like that. We certainly have a lot of them that are questioning things now, and as well as deputies who are closer to that retirement age, wondering, you know, do I keep going or do I do something else?
I want to talk about your podcast, Officer Down. Give me 2 minutes. We'll take a break and we'll come back and talk about how you personally are honoring those who died in the line of duty. Just 2 minutes. We'll be right back. I'm continuing my conversation with Dodge County Sheriff Scott Rose. Before the break, we were talking about recruiting and how difficult things are, especially in greater Minnesota and the smaller agencies. But also, I did want to ask you this before we talk about the podcast, Scott. When we see a person of color who gets injured or killed by a law enforcement officer, we see protests nowadays. Does it bother you? It must, when something happens to an officer and the headlines aren't as big.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. We've had a number of line of duty deaths this year, and so many different situations where things have become very violent with our officers and our agencies across the state and across the United States.
Social media is a place where people will jump, pounce, attack, and they hide behind their keyboards. And you are very vocal.
Yeah, I am. I think it's important for leadership in law enforcement to speak up, be vocal, be visible, be out there in social media, and be talking about the positives, be talking about why people should be supporting our men and women that are working day and night to keep us safe.
Yeah, well, the people who do support you are loud. I see the signs all over that say support local law enforcement or Blue Lives Matter.
I mean, the support's there. There's no doubt about it. We have to be louder.
Yeah.
We have to be more vocal about it. We have to be more active at the state level, at the legislative level. We need to be at the table. Nobody in law enforcement is going to tell you that there aren't things that we can't improve on, because there certainly are, and we all agree with that.
Officer Down, the podcast. You and I had talked about it the last time I interviewed you a number of months ago. You've got some great segments coming out honoring those who have died. Yeah,
we're excited about the direction the podcast has gone. So this month, Police Week is coming up May 15th. So this month, the first 3 Fridays of the month, we're highlighting anniversary fallen officers. So typically what we do when we do our memorial programs, we're going to highlight 10-year anniversaries. So this year we have William Freitag, Rochester PD's first line of duty death back from 1961. His story will be this Friday. Next Friday, it'll be Chief Neil Johnson from the Blooming Prairie Police Department. He was killed in 1951. And then that following week will be Sean Schneider from Lake City from 2011.
I can't believe that it's been 10 years since the death of Officer Schneider. There was a lot of headlines.
That one's still a tough one to go through.
Who did you talk to with that one?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Are you talking to somebody with that one? Are you featuring somebody?
Absolutely. In Sean's story, we have officers who were there at the scene. The partner of his from Lake City PD who was there. We have the sheriff from Wabasha County is on there. His mother is on there. They all really help tell the story, and it's a tragic story. Yet it's a story that you're just so proud of the work that he did and the life that he saved, and he was a true hero, and all these survivor families want to make sure that their fallen loved one, that their service and their sacrifice isn't forgotten. Yeah. They want to talk about it. They want those memories to stay alive, and that's one thing the podcast does. It gives you a different perspective of the fallen officers, in that it's a storytelling podcast. So it actually puts you in the place of that officer. It gives you the idea. It introduces you to the officer, to the agency, to that community, to that era, and then it puts you right there at the scene where we lost these officers. And they're pretty emotional, and some of them are pretty graphic. And but the point is, cops are ordinary people willing to take extraordinary risks for us, for our safety, for our families, for our communities. They're great people. Yeah. And, I think the podcast really pushes that and promotes that, and really promotes us to remember that we've got to support these survivor families.
Officer Down is the name of the podcast. Scott, I will put a link to it with this interview on our website, and I hope it gets a lot of traffic. You know how much I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yep, I appreciate it. And then for people who do listen to podcasts, they can look up Officer Down Memorial Podcast. It's on all the major apps. So, okay. We'd appreciate all the support we can get. And thank you, Betsy, for all your support.
Always. You've got it from me, always. Thank you, sir. We'll be back.